reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
Inhabited by the hyper-advanced Elden, who disappeared from the galaxy long ago. Where is this lost world? What mysteries and wonders will be found there? And does it conceal ancient technologies and forbidden magic of awesome, unimaginable power? Guess what? You're gonna find out, Cupcake. Nexus has just been discovered, and things are about to get real. Welcome to WildStar. When someone finds the most legendary planet in the universe, you can be damn sure that everyone is saddling up their starship and blazing a trail to get there. On one side, you've got the Exiles, a motley crew of refugees, outlaws, and mercenaries. On the other, the Dominion, a powerful interstellar empire that prides itself on kicking ass. Throw in a bunch of the weirdest, wildest, and most ruthless races this side of the event horizon, and you've got an explosive cocktail just looking for someone to party with. You ready for a fight? Oh yeah. Face off against dangerous alien organisms, killer robots, and savage natives, using skill, movement, and some old-fashioned backbone to smash your enemies to smithereens. Whether your arsenal is big guns and bullets or supercharged magical spells, you'll be cracking skulls and making corpses in no time. Well, stakes not high enough for you? Then you and some of your most bloodthirsty friends should double down and buy a war plot. Then outfit with enough firepower to blow a hole in the space-time continuum. When your death fortress is complete, go to war against your enemies and earn rewards so epic your head will explode like a supernova. Boom! Taming a hostile alien world ain't gonna be easy, so choose a path and start taking care of business. As a soldier, scientist, settler, or explorer, you'll be facing Nexus head-on with custom content and rewards that make it your kind of adventure. So whether it's starting a war, building a town, climbing a mountain, or studying bug-eyed brain-eating extraterrestrial critters, you're whipping this planet into shape with your own personal style. You didn't come halfway across the galaxy for a weekend visit, no. So grab a plot, build a house, and kick back on your little piece of the galactic dream. Customize your house with a mind-numbing array of choices, transforming it into a unique reflection of your own enigmatic, schizophrenic, or sociopathic tastes. Snazzy! And just when you think it's all over and maybe it's time to take a breather, guess again. Dive headfirst into an episodic world story to reveal the ultimate secrets of Nexus, doing your best to avoid getting demolished, dissected, or vaporized. Along the way, you'll see some of the most epic content since the Big Bang itself, squaring off against the most hair-raising enemies that Nexus has to offer. Add to that an unbelievable lineup of dungeons, raids, PvP battlegrounds, and adventures, and you've got a rich, deep, unforgettable experience that's guaranteed to blow your mind. WildStar. Adventure is about to get an ass kicking.
My favorite YouTube comment is but they blew up the planet before we got to play. Oh yeah, we did kind of destroy the world at the end of our trailer. So I like being off rails, and so we'll show you a bunch of content, and I will cram in as much as I can, and then we'll run through housing so we can show that kind of stuff live. But ask questions. Take me off rails. Say, hey, that's a shiny thing in the distance. Let's go see that, and we will, because what we're doing here really is we're kicking off closed beta. Depends on how our current builds go through QA and all that, but within the next month or two, we'll be kicking that off. And so what we're going to do is just walk through content that is real game content. We're not doing like demo, like here's the exact, stuff that's been handcrafted so you can get a fake experience. Now we're going to walk through content. Now luckily, it's good content. Our basic premise is this. We have two main things we're focusing on. Number one is, as MMOs have come out, there's two things that we think have traditionally been the main failure points. Number one is it's the leveling game. It can be boring, it can be grindy, everybody's killed 10 rats before, everybody loves their first leveling experience and their first MMO where you're like, yes, this game was the best, EverQuest was the best, or whichever your first one was. And then your second MMO, it's like, well, I kind of done this before. By like your fourth MMO, you're pretty sick of the grind. So what can you do to make that more interesting? For us, that is, make sure we have a cool combat system. Pop in and I'll talk as we do it. Make sure we have a cool combat system. Make sure there's high monster variants so fights are interesting. Have lots of environmental variants. There's different things in different areas so that you're not fighting in the same way all the time. You're not seeing the same stuff all the time. Lots of dynamic content spread throughout. We have a cool tech which will just deform our terrain in real time where we can swap things in and out. You know, we give it for players, we use this for housing. The rest of the world we use it to have big, dramatic things. So leveling has to kick ass. And then secondly, once you get to the end, the other games have to kick ass. The things you do at top level have to be fun. They have to be repeatable. They have to be new systems you have not seen before. It's worth taking some of your USPs, your unique selling points, and do them at the top levels. It's worth taking time to actually tune them and make sure you don't launch with like either nothing or unpolished stuff. So that's what we're aiming for. So we'll show some of everything we can cram in. This is the Halon Ring. It's a level 40 zone, 40 through 47 or something like that. It's a zone in space. This is the defense network around Nexus. The backstory of Nexus is there's the race, the Elden. It's the most powerful race in the galaxy. They have great magic. They have the best technology. And they've disappeared and no one knows why. And so this is part of a defense network that protected the planet for millennia. And as the Elden disappeared, people finally broke through the defense network to get to the planet. But in the interim, this whole area is being bombarded by space debris of pieces of shot down ships. There's a spaceship graveyards full of all sorts of different things. And gameplay here is a little different. It's low gravity, so that you can float. If you get out into the airless areas, you need a helmet to survive. There's meteorites, and there's actually space debris of all kinds kind of crashing down around the planet. Some of which is harmful. I mean, any of it is harmful if it smacks you in the head. But some of it's useful, some of it is, the creatures. There's all sorts of interesting stuff going on throughout this zone. So it's a very different feel than the African savanna type zone that we have on the show floor, or from the starter zones, the big floating crystals that make you super jump, or any of that kind of stuff. So let's go bop around, we'll just teleport around and check out some of this.
What's the level cap?
50. But all things are subject to change in beta because there's these things called players, and when they say, oh, we want it to be blah, then we tend to make it be blah.
Yeah, right.
But in general, 50. This is part of the spaceship graveyard. It's infested with pirates. There's witches here who are raising up the crews of the spaceship, so it's a pretty good example of technology and magic sort of going hand in hand. There's a lot of dynamic content in the area. There's path content. We'll show some of the path content, especially in the lower level areas too. If we bump into any of it here, we'll show it off here as well. Paths, for those who don't know, people have play styles. Like, I'm an explorer, I want to see the things that are off in the distance, or I'm a settler, and so I want to do social activities. We give you something besides your class to be able to do this. This is actually a good example of a piece of space debris, which is a vending machine. And we're occasionally asked, what makes, how is WildStar different? Among the ways that we're different is we blend technology and fantasy and just general weirdness in a strange way. I might just sum this in rather than waiting for any random spawns to appear, but this is actually a possessed vending machine. And so it sits there waiting to lure people into its grasp. And then once activated, it springs to life and starts beating the crap out of you. I've played many MMOs. I've not been attacked by very many vending machines. But it's a good example of combat too, because we have action-based combat. We like lots of dodging, interacting. Dodging and jumping is a little bit different in a low gravity zone. You can go higher, but it's slower, and so that makes some attacks better than others or worse than others. Whenever you do an attack, you see a telegraph on the ground saying this is where I'm going to attack. Your party sees that, your raid sees that. So this is how you communicate in real time while you're fighting, is the healer always kind of thing saying, okay, I'm going to be healing this area. It's up to the tanks to move over there and sort of do formations to get healed and whatnot. So at low level, that's actually kind of a handy thing, and at high level, it's also a handy thing. Creatures do attacks of various kinds, including spitting sodas up into the air, because that's how we roll. They'll mark down their telegraphs. In the single monster combat, it's nice and easy. You get multi-monsters, and you really get a nice sort of pattern going across the entire battlefield of beneficial things here, harmful things there. It's a good experience, and we do this to add variety. You know, this is part of how we get people through leveling, is you've done a ton of combat. So we have, every monster has a different set of attacks. They have a series of attacks. We don't have a ton of monster repetition, so you can just see kind of interesting things in different areas. We're really trying to make it so that fight to fight there's variation, and then within a fight it's pretty tough to sort of zone out and just snooze through it. In this case, he just interrupted him. He creates an energy drink for himself and then pounds it down to heal himself. And throughout the area, there's environmental things. You know, you'll see meteors crashing or space debris crashing in the area, bringing in new stuff. These little things here, there's a lot of sort of cursed skeletons and whatnot around. And so if you get too near it, then a bunch of bad guys pop up. Most of these are things you can use against your enemies too, because once you realize, okay, these things are little traps with the skeletal guys coming out, you can lure monsters over nearby and get them attacked by the skeletons, unless they're undead, in which case they'll band up and then both beat the crap out of you. We try to go for a lot of different little ways of making sure that there's interesting things to do in the environment, and we reward you for using as much of them as possible. Let's pop somewhere else, so once you've got your last 7 hit points off this guy. Okay. I want to cram in as much content as we can show. It's a personal challenge to see how many zones we can get before we do housing. I don't know why. It's a long show. You got to beat yourself the best you can. And no questions yet, because I'm talking too much. So.
What about controller support? Like you have like DC Universe, you could use a controller.
So we've had it working in the past because of board programmer amused himself by adding in support for it. So I don't know that we launched with it officially or not, because it needs to go through QA and all that, but it's certainly possible. It works pretty well with combat. It's kind of a natural fit for it. So cool. I would say it is likely. I don't like promising stuff that we haven't done for reals.
Well, so. You just said promise. That I heard it.
Okay. Oh, damn it, then we have to do it. The Crimson Isle, so we went from level 40-ish zone to level 3 zone. This is when you're a dragon. Draken are this like dragon race, and their first mission here is they have to infiltrate this island. The island's under this shield that's being generated, and their first mission is go blow up the shield, bring it down so the rest of the invading forces can come in. And so there's a little comparison here of, we give, even in your first couple of fights and all that, we still give you some of the same kind of stuff. This is a stealth class that can sneak up and kick the crap out of things. You get a communicator call, so dynamic quests, especially things, they tend to broadcast to the area around them saying like, hey, my ship crashed, I need help, and that kind of stuff. In the environment, even in the level 3 area, which I think we're fighting at level 10, so we are kicking the crap out of people. There's a bunch of environmental hazards around. There's spaceships flying overhead. If they see you inside of the sort of spotlights as they're doing it, they send in an orbital strike, and as a newbie, you get hit by it, and then you eventually learn, oh wait, you can stun and damage your enemies while using these things to help you. There's mines, and you can either disarm them, which is cool, and you can start a challenge to disarm more mines, or you can step on them and get blown up, or you can lure monsters into it and do it. And if you're a scientist, there's even more stuff to do in an area. There's like red flowers, for instance, are scannable by scientists when we are an explorer. They can unlock even more of these shrines and things like that in the environment, because the more they study, the more powerful they get, and the better the stuff is. They can either weaken monsters, or they can make more cool things happen in the environment. All that works. You can become an expert at using these things. And so let's have some explorer content. Explorers get rewarded. These are people who, it's about a quarter of players self-identify as explorers. These are people who mostly want to discover stuff. They want to go where other people don't go, which is a challenge as a designer, make sure that you can actually, do that as much as possible. And they don't want to get led towards stuff. They get hints about like, oh, there's something kind of interesting to do in this area. And they often get environmental challenges. In this case, you get led to this little hidden cave. Other people can find it in this case. Sometimes it's blocked only for explorers. And then there's a cave-in going on, so you need to dodge around all the falling rocks and all the debris that's happening to find a little sort of hot cold puzzle over here to be able to figure out exactly where to place a sensor down. This is just a sort of random example because there's, I don't know how many different, 10 or 12 different mission types that get mixed in with different content and all that. The key though is that you are getting sent to kind of go to interesting things. Other ones are, You can unlock a route up the side of a cliff and get to the top of the cliff. And we tend to make it so the paths work well together. You always get XP, if path XP, if you help someone of a different path. And soldiers start huge holdouts and things like that. And if other people join in, awesome, they get a path XP for their particular path as well. In this case, we're going to sneak in here and blow up the dish just because we tend to do a lot of stuff in cinematics. We have really good internal cinematics teams. That's why we keep doing those neat videos and things like that. All that's internal. We just we enjoy making them. And so that team was originally just did these things in game, but now they do a lot out of game. In fact, we'll show that housing one we just did too. Question?
I noticed when he went in, he had the indicator over his head. Is that what you're using as an indicator to those Explorer players? Like, here is something hidden you can find, or are there things
like
that
red
are just...
arrowy type thing that he's following? Yeah, and what we've done with Explorers in particular is it hints kind of where things are at, usually rather than being like, here's an XYZ location.
And are there super secret things that aren't indicated, things that they literally will just have to discover?
Yes, absolutely. Because what we found is, when we announced at Gamescom, we've done like almost nothing publicly since then, because we're now building up through beta and all that kind of stuff. We went and we showed all this awesome Explorer content, and then we had people, we had press go play the game, and press line, okay, I went in, and then people were like, I'm an Explorer, and I didn't find anything to discover. It's like, yeah, we showed you all in the demo. That was a little stupid, wasn't it? That we showed all the stuff you're supposed to go discover. And Explorers, in our internal testers, we got about 600-700 friends and family testers in there. Explorers often say stuff like, either if you make it too clear, they don't like it. If you give them something to actually discover on their own, they dig it. Where are you at? Oh, so there's an interesting case too. This guy he's a member, there's a game called Binball that we play in the housing areas. This is a crashed member of a Binball team. He is the sole survivor actually after they crashed on this island. So if you're wondering why there's a 40-foot tall guy with a football helmet on, that's what you want. We try to make sort of like you had to cheat on, we try to mix the kind of epic stuff, like you sneak in here to train you blow up this giant shield generator, with goofy stuff, because it amuses us, and we think that, it's a couple hundred hours of content getting from level 0 to, level 50, and so if we just were all super serious the whole time, we'd be bored staff we should be. So we try to mix in a little fun stuff as well as the personality of the game throughout the quest, throughout the voiceover, so that it's amusing as you go through all these different areas. Sure.
You mentioned Path XP.
Sure.
How does that differ from your regular pool of XP?
So regular XP you get for the kinds of things you'd expect. Combat and fighting stuff. Any challenge you face tends to have regular XP associated with it. It's risk should equal reward. Path XP is when you do something that your path generally likes. It's a little vague, I guess. Here's an example. As you level up as an Explorer, let's say, you gain Path XP for doing explorery stuff, which I'll explain in a minute. And you get explorery rewards, so you get 10 powers, like a jetpack that works once a day, or the speed boots, or a stealth module that you could, that it's used on a cooldown, that kind of stuff. So it tends to be things that gives you occasional bursts of awesomeness, especially to help you do the kind of stuff you like to sign up for your path. As a soldier, you get to test out weapons and things like that. So some of their pathwords are like, oh, here's a permanent weapon now you can keep. So you effectively have a new temporary power that you can use occasionally, often not ubiquitously. So what we don't want to do is screw you over in PvP or raiding or whatever by having too much of your power come out of your path. But it helps you do your path stuff. So Explorers, I'll get to it 1 second. I hear you. Get stuff like, if you find the highest vista, pop over to Derridin with or to Al Rock, either way.
With Derridin South.
Okay. So the kind of things Explorers get XP for is if you see every hex in your map, you get Explorer XP for it. If you unlock a new area, you get regular XP for it, and you get Explorers get extra XP. You find a discovery. Those are those like random, I don't know if we've seen any or not, but there's these random glowing craters on the ground you can click on, and stuff will come out. It can be a micro dungeon. It can be like a chest full of goodies. It can be bots that follow you around, or shrines, or that kind of stuff. Explorers get extra Path XP for that. And so we reward you for doing the kind of stuff you sort of sign up saying, I like doing this. Hey, you found the tallest mountain in the zone? Awesome, you're Explorer. Ooh, free Explorer XP. We're not free to work for it. But it turns out it's actually quite positive. You get rewarded for doing the kind of stuff you already found fun. It's cool. Like, it's nice. It's extra. It makes it feel more like the game is built around you. than just it's, oh, here, we're going to force you down a path of, force you down an area. Sorry.
So you have the 4 classes you've already talked about: soldier, scientist, settler, explorer. Have you guys thought about, or are there plans to possibly add more as it goes on? Maybe if you see people playing in ways you didn't foresee in beta or anything like that?
Yeah, we have some thoughts about what to do that we suspect might be interesting. The paths are based loosely on Bartle's types, which is like MMO research about the main player types.
Right.
But his types were like Achiever, which is you're rewarded by watching your bars go up.
Right.
Spoiler alert, that's every MMO player, right?
Yeah.
Progress Quest is vaguely addictive, it's watching little bars crawl up. And so, for instance, we broke achievement into building achievement, which is settlers building up stuff in the quest hubs and making the quest things stronger. That's a kind of achievement. Combat is a kind of achievement. The Explorer is is a Bartles type directly, and that's a common one. There really are a lot of people who play that stuff just to discover things. Wonder about the show, whatever you feel like, I'll talk to it. I know we probably have some housing.
So just to confirm, the Path XP is a totally different pool than regular.
Totally different pool.
Okay.
There can be arguments, I suspect, that we'll see during beta, that there will be some people who focus on path stuff so much that their path out-levels their normal level, and I suspect we'll see people who focus on just the level grind, so once they want to get to 50 so bad that they ignore a lot of the path stuff along the way. And so if so, then we may need to tie those together in some fashion. But to date, that actually hasn't been happening much in our current player pool. You can't tell much from only watching 700 people. You kind of need 10 grand plus to go find out that those are for real or those are for not.
Is it possible once you're at highest level? Sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
At highest level to switch paths?
No. At the moment, path is you make the choice of character creation like your race and your class, and it's cool. You get occasional feedback that it'd be nice to try out the paths before doing it, so we've experimented in the past with looking at like the tutorial zone. Your initial zone is 1 through 3, you come here on an arc ship that's landing on the planet. But it turns out most people actually self-identify their paths. When we first announced the Gamescom, no one ever heard of a path system before. We're like, hey, here's our types. You got Socializer, you got your guy who likes story or a collector kind of mentality. You got an explorer mentality, you got a combat mentality, who's what. And universally around the room it was like, obviously combat's awesome, but I don't understand why the hell you want more story. Or, oh, hey, exploration's awesome, combat sucks, you combat MMOs all the time anyway, why would you want more? The people know what the hell they are pretty quick. And there's hybrids, of course, but there's multiple characters for that too. But we'll see. Right now we can do a cheap switch between paths. So will we let players do it someday? I don't know. Something about the identity of your character I think is important.
That's what alter for.
Yeah.
So with having 2 different pools of XP, you have your standard level and your path level. It seems like, at least with the Explorer, that the path level seems a little more geared toward PvE, whereas standard level would be geared more towards PvP. Is that actually something you guys tried to do, or is that just coincidental?
No, what we wanted to do, so when you're in the outside world, it tends to be PvE, but there's path stuff to do in the battlegrounds and war plots and all that kind of thing. And so as an explorer, you get sniper-y type, scouty type abilities of, I'm going to call in an airstrike, so if I'm, sneak in ahead of my guys, I can do X, Y, or Z. Or I can trigger something in the environments, or some environmental thing I can do that reflects into PvP. And so in the powers that you get, we try to make them so that they're useful for PvP or not.
Are there some then that are only available for one or the other? There's some that are only PvP versus PvE?
I don't know, I haven't seen any. So, and I don't have a general philosophy on that. Because we are limited action set, which means, we give you a bar, we can't give you 40 abilities to trigger all at the same time while we let you dodge and strafe and all this other stuff. We've done it in the past, and it's too much to handle as a control scheme. And because of that, you tend to choose, okay, when I go, here's the one explorer ability I'm going to equip when I go in, if you have a slot for your path ability. So because they probably tend to choose a different one for PvE versus PvP would be my offhand guess. But we need more testing to know that for real. Or to see if we'd like to put our hold.
Do you have a path that's favored right now with your testing?
For me personally, or for
No.
It's actually been a pretty good breakdown amongst testers. One of the reasons we do the show floor stuff too is, as we get buzz and all that, and it's time to start building the hype machine and all that kind of stuff, I guess. But we actually track what everybody picks, because it's like, oh look, this race is over favored. Yeah. The core of the team came off of WoW. There was like 20 or so of the seniors and leads off of World of Warcraft, jump ship and Blizzard. And one of their findings from WoW was that something like 60% of people chose human on the first day, and an overwhelming percentage chose alliance over horde. Why? It's because one side is pretty and one side is ugly, and guess what? Your girlfriend tends to want to play, and then you got to kind of play the side your girlfriend's playing. Right. You know, and that's a little overstatement. That's a little broadly stated, but in general, there was a big people shifted the alliance over too much. And then so what they did is they put PvP stuff on the horde side, and so people then it normalized, but then so all the PvP benefits were on the horde side. People started switching over to the horde, and then you got to flip the switch on the other side, and that sucks. And so this is why when you see our factions, you'll note that humans are on both sides. There's a big hulking race on both sides. There's a hulking race on both sides. You know, we try to have, if you're going to make your choice based on the look of characters, we don't want to have that end up with a big faction imbalance. And we'll get that wrong to an extent. We'll get it wrong by 10% and not 60%. Right. How are we doing on time, Mikey?
Should probably switch to housing.
Okay. Oh, one will out, and then we'll do housing. We're a soldier right now, and so this is an example of a holdout. Holdouts are public quests. One of the things soldiers do is they start big public quests. Everybody can join in. The more people join in, the tougher the monsters get, or the more of them there are. But as an example, you sort of like kick ass and take names, or cheat your way through it if you're a late demo driver. Just want to fight stuff. You want to get housing. Or they're the wrong level or something that's going on.
It's all about plushies.
Okay. Anyway, the soldiers tend to get combat-based stuff, assassination missions, they get crates full of weapons to go test out, so they get a set of 10 powers that affect creatures differently in the areas you go do it. We try to make a lot of the past stuff overlap with normal content. So it's like, hey, we're giving you a quest to go kill predators out in the wild. And here's a mission for grenades to test against some of the predators. So if you're smart, you fight those ones first with your grenades to get extra damage. And you can more efficiently do the quest line. And as a, players play level, 85 content in other games, you feel smart even in our level 6 area doing that kind of stuff. The mighty Undead. We tend to end with big bosses on this kind of stuff. We like big things that attract players together so that you have a temporary reason to go join, and then give you some benefits so that there's a reason to go through sort of the next area together. If you make friends in the game, that's a better game. Settlers are awesome for this because there's social benefits. They build new taxi stations, they can build new outposts near tough content, they can build campfires, which give you a buff to everybody who uses them. And so you're always psyched to have settlers around. And it's, I think, a wise move to reward people for being socially, aware and helping people around them. It makes the game kind of fundamentally better at a certain level. But let's go pop in and we'll go do housing stuff.
If everybody's a settler and everybody makes taxi stations all through the zone, what happens?
Here's a cleverness. I think this is emergent. I don't think we ended up designing for it initially, but it's a nice ramification. A lot of so when you're a settler and you're working in an area, if you're a single settler, you can build sort of like the lowest tier of stuff. And then if there's more settlers around, you can build the next tier. If there's a ton of settlers, you can build the top tier. And so what we've done is, and then you maintain it, because you make these persistent changes, but they need to maintain them over time before they go away. And so what we've tended to do is put a lot of movement abilities up at the top tiers, the really useful taxi stations, that kind of thing, or speed buffs, or mount vendors that sell temporary mounts, that kind of thing. You put this at the top tier, and then what happens is if the area is overcrowded with people, you get extra movement abilities, which means people tend to disperse, which means you get a better layout of players overall, because now you've incented everybody to move. Oh, there's a temporary taxi vendor here, or a mount vendor here. Oh, I'm going to buy a temp mount, and we're going to go run out and do my content. You just moved away from the overcrowded quest hub. And so on launch day especially, that kind of thing is useful to think about. So we focus on like the level 6 kind of areas, especially level 3 through 6 is all instanced to around 50, 70 people, something like that, so that you don't get massive overcrowding on launch day. Or on special event day or whatever it might be, or all the other servers are down day. But then beyond that, the game has to be live for a long time, and it needs to handle 1 settler in an area or 100 settlers in an area. So there are more nodes on the station if there's more settlers around, but there's also actually other stuff kind of bribing or incenting you to move around a lot. That was kind of emergent, so I'd love to say this was part of the design from day one, but it's a nice benefit of having sort of figured that out along the way. So we'll do the housing video and then go show housing for real, since I know at least a couple of you have seen the housing video. This is part of Dead Speed. We do, the piece that we just put out was WildStar is like, it's a marketing piece. We want to have people understand at the base level, here's what the game is, here's how it's different from games you've seen before, here's cool stuff that we're doing amongst the spectrum of cool stuff. This is more talking to people who are already fans, and it's just us talking about the systems as we're kind of working on them in a sort of low BS fashion. And play it. Of course, can talk better than I to it.
Welcome to WildStar. This is DevSpeak. Disclaimer time. This series is about getting into the nitty-gritty of WildStar. That said, we're going to start with something you might not expect. It's one of our core features, housing. Let's start at the beginning. How do you get a house? Well, just find yourself a ProStar housing specialist. You'll see them pretty early on. Bring some cash and you are G2G. They'll send you straight to your sky plot to start building. You want to clear off any, shall we say, undesirables. Oh, what up? You can stay. First you can build a little campsite. Then you'll get a starter home. Eventually you can buy some pretty crazy domiciles. Once it's built, you can customize and decorate the hell out of it. And really, you can do anything. I mean, inside, outside, walls, roofs, doors, windows, wallpaper, furniture, it's all fair game. Put a floating chair and an upside-down table. See if I care. But housing in WildStar isn't this isolated secondary feature. It's actually woven into your entire gameplay experience. You'll find items for your house all over the game, from random drops to quest rewards to crafting. It will become your home base, and a place that provides you with a myriad of conveniences. An easy example? Logging off in your house grants you more rest XP than anywhere else. More cool items in your house, more rest XP. Remember how I said you can decorate the outside of your house? Well, you can actually construct buildings and facilities. We call them plugs. They fit into spots on your land called sockets. This is where the real action happens. Like to cook? Build a garden to harvest ingredients. Need some more? Build a mine. Can't bring the deeps? Practice on a target dummy. Tired of facing that mob of players around the public workbench? Build your own and craft in peace. Your plugs will give you daily quests, resources, and more. But they do take some time to build up. Don't worry, because you can teleport to your house anytime from anywhere. Housing is also a little bit of a social scene. Set your plot to allow your friends and neighbors to visit, or open it up to the public. It's not just about showing off. You'll be looking at some serious perks. Can't log on for a week? Get a buddy to maintain your garden, and they'll get a portion of the reward. Bandits raiding your neighbor's property? Lend a helping hand, gun, or sword, and earn yourself some bounty. Hardcore raider? How about a personal raid portal? With a buff. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We are making a big effort to make player housing a major part of the game, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it as much as I do. Well, maybe not as much as I do. This is only the tip of the iceberg for housing, but that's all I can show you for now. If you want more info, you can hit us up here or here. Remember, the devs are listening.
So as a studio, we're kind of just trying to have an BS attitude about our stuff. We try not to demo stuff that's not for reals. We try not to talk about features we haven't done yet, or stick the right caveats on it, but we'll kind of work on it. And DevSpeak lets us do that a little more publicly, so we're going to start knocking these out fairly often and just dig more deeply into systems in a casual kind of fashion. So I don't know that we get a new user through them, but we enjoyed the heck out of them, so tough boogies, I guess. So here's housing for reals. When you first start off in this area, the ProtoStar is they're our used car salesman race of the universe. And they've sold you a plot of land. They didn't happen to mention they ripped it out of the ground and threw it into the sky, but at least now you have a nice little mobile plot. And they do this, of course, because then you can build even more houses on the ground. And then within that, you find out through the quest line as you go to claim your land that unfortunately part of the ground that they ripped up, and the reason that you got it at such a great price was that it was built on top of an ancient pet cemetery, and therefore there's haunted creatures of various kinds infesting your plot, which you have to clear out before you can actually lay claim to it. You get housing, and this is actually the end boss, particularly of that, is our little phantasmal, our phantasmal skeletal guy. So even at level 6, we don't mind tossing some fairly interesting fights and stuff at you. You can bring your friends to help out if you have a tough time doing the quest, but some more stuff you want most people to be able to do solo too. Within that, once you sort of clear that off, you earn your initial stuff. What we try to do is have most of the stuff for housing be things that you earn. either through the quest lines or through drops, challenges, or trade skills, because we like a nice healthy player economy around this stuff. So most interesting plugs, which are the facilities you're building around your house, you need trade skill or help to unlock them. Some you can just build up over time. Some require the use of a trade skill or selling something via the auction house or other interesting economic things. We limit the outside decorations. What we do is we basically put a set of hooks that you can hang things on outside. The reason we do that is I come from a UO background. I was on UO2 as lead programmer like about 1 million years ago. And in UO, what you would do is you pile stuff outside your house so that you put like 60-something thousand objects outside your house. Then people would slow to a crawl as they approached, and then you would kill them and take all their stuff. And so we like to avoid little player abuses we know about from past games. And so that's why we have, if you want to know why we have a hook system outside, that would be why. Because inside your house, you let you free place whatever you want, wherever you want, fully drag, drop, all that good kind of stuff. We have a pretty vast library here. This is just what the standard vendor will sell you for your house so that it's convenient to be able to just be like, okay, I'd like blah, 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 blah as you play stuff. The more interesting things, some you can buy for gold pieces, but the more interesting ones are found on everything from dungeons to raids to inside the game kind of stuff. We want you to earn the stuff on your house so that yours is unique. If everything were available for either real cash or for gold pieces, then everybody's house would tend to end up being about the same. We like variety. We like players expressing themselves. First day we did a team test of housing. We were about 100 people at the time. 64,000 objects got placed in the first hour of the test. Just decorating the house, just with decor that had no effect actually on gameplay. It's cooler when stuff has effect on gameplay. And so we do a ton of that. Head inside, we'll show some of the freeform.
Do you have any rough number on how many customization options there are?
You can pop up any interface that shows any of the customizations and whole. How much we'll ship with, I have no clue. It's as many as we can crank it. During, here we are pre-closed beta, we have this much from the vendor for just stuff that is placeable inside the house. There's about twice that for stuff outside the house. There's, I guess, about 100 plugs or something in the list for the facilities outside. It's a lot. And then it's wallpapers, another set of stuff, because you can change the wallpaper, you can change the floor colors, you can change the trim. Click stuff faster. But as I say it, real time like a video.
How about this wallpaper?
Oh, the ugliest wallpaper in the game. Thank you. It's a little ProtoStar, guys. We should make it like 4 times as expensive since it's ProtoStar themed. I'm sure they wouldn't license their image for less than a couple of gold. And then that, the items that you earn, a lot of them we've shifted in the last milestone or so. We do 8-week milestones, which is about every 8 weeks we do a significant update to our friends and family and do a patch. This last milestone, 175 pages of patch notes from stuff being added. And so we work at a kind of frenetic pace for stuff going in too. So there's a lot. We're 200 and something people now, so we can play 64,000 objects that much faster. Everything has physics to it, so you can place stuff on stuff, like you'd expect. You can stand on it, you can jump on it. This means that if you take a floor shelf and you decide, I want to build a whole loft for my house out of it by, placing them next to each other and building a thing, our guys have done that. You have full sort of movement of everything, ability to, fine-tune place stuff. Initial placement's super easy. You can just kind of click where you want and it sticks there. So the interface has gotten good over time, so it's pretty natural to do it. One of the joys of doing sort of the customization of all this is, if you give enough building blocks, you can kind of sort of free make whatever you want. In addition to just the stuff we hand you. Back in the UO days, you take like sacks of cloth and pieces of coal and build like a piano out of it by like stacking it all and layering it all over it. And so the 3D equivalent of that is, hey, you want to make you make a cage or a crib? You're staring at me, whatever it is.
That's how you looked at it.
You can do that. You can't trap people in your house like The Sims or anything. You can't build a swimming pool and then lock all your neighbors in it because everybody can hearth back to their house. You can try. In general, most of the housing is built around non-combat. Then we take all the same tech and we do war plots, and that is, don't just build a house, build a whole neighborhood. Build a huge fort that is ginormous with all sorts of facilities and things that create, mechanized robots and capture raid bosses and pin them down on your plot and then go send them out to go beat up the other guys with the plot. It's like the epic version of housing. versus the I'm going to chain up a bunch of plush animals in the basement, like Mike Eldard apparently is a fan of. These are interesting to note. These are actually the buffs you're currently getting. The first ones we tied in was the Rest XP buff, which is why I mentioned it in the thing. We give you buffs for really comfortable furniture or for lighting, because people want lighting their houses and have some kind of pride to have a better design aesthetic. The ambiance trophies give you the more trophies and stuff you put up. We don't want to force you to put a ton of crap in your house you don't want, but we do want to reward you for finding some of the rarer stuff, and so we give some benefits around that. We'll likely expand that in the future, but it's actually quite nice as a Rest XP thing, because we want this to be your home. We want this to be where you log in and out each day, so that you go adventure, and then you get, oh, it's a nice little desk actually, I've seen that before. You're deleting all your stuff. You throw up a window real quick? Probably already gone.
So these trophies, are they actually earned in the world?
Yes. Yeah. You kill a rare monster, and then like we have some like animal heads and whatnot. I don't know if we have any up on the wall, but Mike, you can throw them up there. The stuff tends to come with its own lighting and whatnot too. Like swing around, look at the window real quick. There's like a storm that rages outside some of the windows, or a train that will pass by it, so you get some lighting. We may do some tricks to, the houses are bigger inside than they are outside, because otherwise it'd actually be annoying to be limited by the space of your physical house footprint. So, it's nice having like really huge mansions later. And so we do, things like this, because giving you actual windows in the world is hard. We may solve that actually too, but we'll see. But at the moment, we generally give you enough toys to play with so that you can have a full experience. It's better, I think, having a bigger house, but do some fakery with the geometry than it is to be forced to a real-sized house, but we'll see. I'm sure the forums will tell us eventually, which is preferred. Let's swing outside. Let's go do stuff with building some plugs and whatnot, show them all that kind of action. So you unlock plugs around your house. Plugs you can stick all sorts of interesting stuff on. Some are rare, some are common, some you can just buy, some need trade skillers to help. It's everything from like a wishing well, which has like once a day you can throw coins in it, you have a chance of getting a random item, to koi ponds where you can fish, to every damn thing. Guard is a good example because and everything just sort of like builds up in place. We can deform the terrain. There's not actually a real trickery around this. We can deform the terrain. We can dig holes in it. We can build mountains out of it. We can do all that kind of stuff. We let the players do that in more plots and housing, and we let settlers do it in town, in towns out in the open world. And then we use this to make sure we can actually do a frequent update cycle, not just during test, but once we're live. Because guess what? You're kind of used to living in these really static worlds, and I don't know we ever put a bullet point on the box around it, but it's really nice when the devs can actually change stuff, kind of freeform fashion, as long as we're not idiots and don't blow up our economy or whatever.
I'm curious as to how zoning-wise the housing is going to work, because you mentioned in the video that it could be open to the public, other people could come check it out. Like if you've got 400,000 players that all have their houses open to the public, how do we go there? How do we check those out? Because I imagine it would be overwhelming just to go to a general housing area and have 400,000 open plots.
So in general, what you do is you take your house deed and then you create an invitation,
okay.
And then you can back that invitation as an object. And so you could put it up on the auction house, you can hand it to people, you could, any way that you can send it via mail to people, any way that you could send an object to someone, you can send an invitation to your house. And so that's the sort of easy answer. It's probably, you can send it to public, but as you mentioned, it's probably a ginormous list of public houses, and so I don't know that user interface is as efficient as actually sending out invitations. That I would expect that, and some of that is things that we need more, if I run users, I can go visit all their houses today. We need more users in there to sort of see what some of our implications are. In general, we will not be doing stuff.
And you mentioned that you didn't want it to be like UO, where you would lure people to your house and kill them, but is that possible?
So most of PvP and housing basically equals war plots. That is effectively using that same system for, instead of making a little hedge mage and having little creatures, rare creatures that spawn in it to give you different achievements and drops and that sort of stuff. They're the world's toughest jab at achievement, you've defended your hedge. We just do lots of those stuff, and some of them more decorative plugs so that there's something else to do. Other stuff here is, like this is a raid buffing statue, and so it gives you a long-term buff. Because what we want to do is have raiders either go from house to house and buff up using all statues, and then use a raid portal on there. That's among the socializing and among the tying with external content kind of stuff that we like. This is a grab pad, which there is nothing tied to it other than it just makes you super jump. But it is fun. And maybe some quest appears to me, a daily quest someday may take advantage of the fact that if you have a grab pad, I think it's easier to get up to the top of the orc fortress that appeared on your land or whatever the hell it is.
Can you place stuff on top of the house?
No, because there's no hooks up there. Because the hooks you can sort of see, some of the plugs come with hooks on them too, so you can decorate the individual sub plugs as well. He probably did while I was yapping away. You know, in the garden there are little plots of dirt. You go chop up herbs and whatnot in the wilderness, and you get some leaves, which you can just use in potions and whatnot. You get some seeds, which you bring back here. And to keep it from being just like everybody has the same garden or you have your optimal little sort of Farmville plot kind of thing, we put on a speed buff here so that the stuff will grow kind of in real time instead of taking the normal, you know, hours or days or whatever it takes to grow.
So you're probably and roughly the same size?
What's that?
So you're part of the plot of land for the house roughly the same size when you purchase artworks?
At the moment we have one size and we'll probably have multiple sizes by launch would be my guess. We'll see. If we don't, we'll have it at some point post launch.
I'm sorry. This helicopter that we're seeing, is that like a rideable mount?
No, that is actually a taxi station. So yes, in the sense that it's auto-required, you can't control, but it takes shows and stuff inside the game. We haven't tried any flying mount stuff yet, but we'll spoil around flight and see us fly around. It's not much of a spoiler to say, yeah, we'll do flying stuff. You can pop on a motorcycle if you feel like it.
So that's taxi station, which is geared, you know, a little toward the settler path and that social type stuff. What other ways is the housing actually tied to path progression, or is it really just its own thing?
Housing is mostly its own thing.
Okay.
Some of the rewards are tied to the paths, like, you know, you can get certain plugs and things. Settlers have a little more options. We may, over time, because it's a settlery thing, we'll probably, I guess I would fly if you mentioned jump over the zone wall, but the flying would man very well. I would suspect that things will experiment in the future would be things like the stuff you can buy from the housing vendor is cheaper for settlers. You know, we tend to do things with costs more than with hard you could do this or you cannot do this, because it sucks if you made a choice at the beginning of the game that permanently gimped you later. You know, it's never fun. So when we do like racial abilities and things like that, instead of it being you have a escape for PvP ability because you're a gnome, and so you are smart because now you're good at PvP. You're a troll, you have +5 to throwing skill, you suck at PvP, and then you need to rebalance it later. I guess it's a little too example. What we do is, here's the other abilities you can buy for points later, and here's a strength-based one. You're a Brannock, it's very cheap to buy it. You're an Oran, so you're in an agile race, so it's very expensive to buy it. And that way, you haven't permanently gimped yourself, but you might just set yourself up for more work in the Elder game to earn the points to be able to unlock the abilities and that kind of stuff. And so that's the kind of thing that, you know, we like doing the settlers would be, this is cheaper, more expensive, or there's extra rewards for having done this. You got the complete set of blah blah items in your house. Hey, settlers get extra path XP for it. You know, it's a likely kind of thing we do. We haven't done it.
Is it possible to do multiple plugs of the same thing?
Yes.
Like, for example, we just want all gardens.
Yes, that is a likely thing. You point out an interesting design thing. It is likely that probably there will be some bias on that, where there'll be some things that are in sets where you can't, it's unique to a plot, so you can't place 8 wishing wells if they're very powerful.
Right.
I would expect we do that someday. We have not actually done that to date, though. But it's likely that there's some of the rare ones, or raid-based ones, or whatever, you could be OP if you could have, blah blah. But you can have one house per character, and so and one plot of land per character. So theoretically, you could have vaults to get multiples of them over time anyway. So maybe that's not a reasonable time restriction.
Are there new plots like unlocked as you level? As far as, I don't want to say plot because that's the wrong term, but
Plugs.
Plugs, yeah, yes. You unlock plugs over the course of getting your house. In today's build, I think not, but that's it's in the design that they're implementing towards.
I guess you'll be limited in the number of plugs you have in your plot.
I don't know. It'll be however many we fit that feels like it looks good and it's the right amount. Anything's adjustable, in terms of making sure that the amount of land you have feeling right, the number of plugs you have feeling right, all that kind of stuff. Beta is kind of the answer to all that. Being pre-beta is a little limiting because it's like, I need real players going in there and saying this sucks and this doesn't suck. Well, they say that now actually, but on forums and things, but they haven't played the game yet, so the feedback gets a little more tuned as people actually play.
When are you guys thinking about releasing?
We're aiming for this year, actually. We're aiming towards the end of this year in 2013. If we stay on our schedules and stuff, that's what we'll do. One of the things my The blessing and curse of it, though, is we listen to feedback, and so some of it's dependent on player feedback. Players come in our beta and throw up all over themselves. That affects their launch game. If they come in and say, "This is the best thing ever, charge us now," and start throwing their money at their computer screens, then that has another impact.
Speaking of money, are you guys going to do subscription or free play?
We will talk business model in probably a month or two. Would be my guesstimate. So we have a good idea of it, but we haven't talked about it yet.
We have about 5 more minutes. Just some last questions.
Cool. This has been a good question group. I like smart questions.
Maybe the pressure on us.
What's that?
You put pressure on us.
I know. Come on. That's question
Well,
we can fit in 5
I know
minutes.
I've heard whispers here and there from people that you guys are you guys are aiming, and I know you have a team formerly from WoW and all that you guys are aiming to really fiercely compete with them. Is that still a goal, or are you just looking to coexist? Or?
I'll tell you the God's honest truth on it. I don't care if we pull a single player out of WoW. And let me put math behind that. Good games churn 10% or so of their users a month, and they reacquire however many users. Call it 5%. So WoW's been churning 5% for 8 years. If you do the math, 5% means every 20 months you have churned out your entire player base. And you recapture them, and blah, blah, blah. But statistically, it's actually true. What this means is that every 20 months, every 2 years, there's 3 million new people who used to play WoW who don't currently play WoW, roughly. And certainly if we said, well, half that's recapture, it's still millions entering the market. And if you think of your friends right now, I guarantee you have a rare friend who's played an MMO who has not played WoW. And probably 10% of them are currently playing WoW. And that's what the numbers about work out to be. And so WoW's not failing or anything. They got millions of subs in there still. But they have churned so many people. This is why you're seeing games come out and selling 1 million boxes, 2 million boxes, 3 million boxes, and then having a hard time retaining is because a lot of people want the next big MMO. But people, either your leveling game can suck, or you don't have enough to do at the top level, or you don't take the time, you don't polish. There's lots of reasons to lose those. The retention is tough. But I literally don't care if we pick up a single WoW player. If there's 2 demos I would like, it would be people who played MMOs before and are bored and are waiting for the next big thing, and it'd be people who never played an MMO before. Those are much better user bases. It's so hard to pull people out of games they love.
Right.
When you pull a user out of EVE Online, no, they freaking love EVE Online. Let them love it. I'll go take the 20 million people who have played MMOs who are bored over the 5 million who are currently playing them and love them.
Sort of you guys have a pretty experienced team as far as building MMOs. What would you say is the biggest mistake you're trying to avoid, or the biggest thing you've learned from Gaffney skills?
Failure to launch.
What's that?
Like a failure to launch.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. I don't know. I mean, the biggest issues I see out there is the amount of neglect that's put in the Elder game. Where people say, oh yeah, we're going to launch the game. All we need to do is launch a patcher, and then everything else will go in after the game launches. Kind of bullshit. That doesn't really work that way. People make their decisions pretty short, in a pretty short time frame. There's certain key points. You roll the numbers. Because I've worked on like 10 or 11 MMOs or something at this point, like something. You roll the numbers, and if you can get people back for 3 play sessions, their average lifetime jumps up to around 60 days of the staying game. You get people to stay for, if it's a subscription model, you get people to stay for 32 days, average lifetime jumps up to around 9 months, depending on the game. Some 6, some's like up to 14. But people stay a long time, and why 32 days? They've gone through a billing cycle. They put in their credit card, they say, yeah, this game's pretty cool, I'll keep trying it. Bam, average lifetime jumps way up. And so the question is, how do you get people over this hump? Get people back for 3 days by having the game be fun, early, and make leveling feel like, okay, it's not going to be this massive grind. You get people through 32 days by keeping the promises you made to them in your pre-launch hype, by having a good closed beta that's polished, by having a solid Elder game at the top end, and by having your leveling game not be like suck and get boring at 30 or 40 when you ran out of time to polish your content. Those are the kind of things. So it's probably more specific than you want, but it's pretty damn accurate about the kind of things that are commonly screwed up even by very smart people, even on some of my best games. So there you go. So that's one of the things we're trying to avoid.
Once you purchase something, can you always go back and have it, or once you get rid of it, is it gone?
You can crate it up and then pull it out of the crate. And it's the easy way to sell, a house with a bunch of stuff in it. That kind of stuff is like you sell it in bulk. It's created sort of contents. So we'd like to have there be like a little interior decorating, class spring up, not through any game systems, but just through player skill. Some people can actually decorate their house well. You know, some of our artist houses, his house was pretty benign. It looks like, you know, something exploded with the middle of it, you know, as opposed to any sort of coordinated, like, oh, well, here's my dad or whatever.
So you were saying yesterday during well, a few of you talked about the community being such a large aspect of keeping games going, and you know the fact that games die for business reasons.
Sure.
Right? What are you doing with WildStar to make sure that the community can grow and be really strong and be viable as players get to the Elder game?
There's a micro answer and a macro answer. The micro answer is that we have lots of systems that incent you meeting new people, but for being able to friend them and having persistent experiences with them is why you can level up in groups from level 12 through 50, is so that there's an outlet for, oh, I found friends and I want to play with them regularly. It's why we have the space animations, little ships will land and then they take you off to the outer reaches and whatnot. It breaks up your zone monotony of the zone, but also it gives you a little group content sprinkled in throughout there as well. At a macro level though, Settlers is a lot of it. Why? It's a social style gameplay. What games are really giving socializers an outlet in their game right now? Very few of them. Or if they are, it's all about socializer. Everybody in the game is a socializer. If we can attract a large socializer crowd in the game, if we can bribe people from helping other players, you place your campfire, everyone who uses it gets a buff, and then you get XP for them using it, and now you've got to figure out how to help the most people in the world. That's the kind of stuff that actually, you've attracted some of these great people who are socializers to your game, and guess what? Now the game feels better for everybody else. Like, that's the kind of stuff that actually builds a community around us, having a lower percentage of jerks, because we ban them, a higher percentage of people who make the environment better for everybody else. And so that's a little bit of I like giving a statistics-based answer. That's a little bit of a fluffy one, but I think that's actually an accurate fluffy one.
So, you talked about raids as well. What about smaller guilds? Are you designing stuff for smaller groups as well?
Absolutely. Both veteran dungeons, that are interesting. The novel raids are 40 man or ginormous. Some raids are a bit more reasonably sized. There's also content for them to do with the story content that comes out. We have a healthy solo Elder game experience because soloers are so often neglected, and so that helps the smaller guilds as well. So yes, is the short form. We don't have like a content thing that's probably exactly aimed at small guilds though. If we do, it's like the veteran adventure. That's the kind of thing. That's not. We're doing a little bit new with that. We're not doing as much new stuff as we're doing in some of the other areas. Thanks guys, by the way, awesome questions.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Cool. Awesome. I think we packed as much into 1 hour as is physically possible. So that's good.